Is Gojo's blue actually green? Now you probably think this video is some sort of joke or a meme. It is not. It is a legitimate question that I believe needs a legitimate answer, which I have attempted to find. As a result, I have found tons of evidence to suggest that all of us have been lied to by Gege Akatumi. Now, when I say that Gojo's blue is actually green, what I mean is, did Gege make a simple error and accidentally call this move blue, and as a result cause the animation studios and the fandom at large to label it as such, when it should be both called green and drawn to be green? I personally believe that Gege made a minor error when crafting this part of Gojo's abilities, and in turn has led to a lot of misinformation and confusion among the fandom. But without talking your ear off any longer for this intro, let me get into my evidence as to why Gojo's blue is in fact green. Piece of evidence number 1, Gege is confirmed to be colorblind. We know for a fact that Gege is confirmed to be colorblind. Like, we know this for a fact. He himself has stated as such in author's notes at the end of chapters. As a result, this has made the fandom sort of double back and look at some of his colour pages that he's previously done, which makes it quite obvious with the ability of hindsight, as it becomes very clear that Gege finds it difficult to differentiate between colour tones sometimes. Specifically, the most apparent example we see of Gege struggling with colour tones, this specific example is somewhat known by the JJK fanbase, is when it comes to Yuji's hair. Because of Gege's colour blindness, Yuji's hair changes tones so much. Sometimes it's the same as Sukuna's, sometimes it's different, sometimes it's blonde, sometimes it's more of a pinkish colour. But with this confirmation from the author himself, we can go back and look at Gege's artwork to see if we notice any inconsistencies when it comes to colour tones, which we have copious examples of that highlight Gege's colour blindness. For example, the front cover of the character guide has Yuji's hair as pink, as the same tone as Sukuna on the front cover. Then when we look at Yuji's hair in the first coloured double spread of the series, his hair is more of a blonde. Then just looking at volume covers and Shonen Jump covers, Yuji's hair is consistently inconsistent. I mean, with the anime, they managed to keep Yuji's hair relatively consistent between seasons, despite the massive inconsistencies due to Gege's colorblindness. This isn't a major issue or anything, but it highlights that Gege may have trouble differentiating between similar tones, i.e. blue and green. We'll get into that later. But as I said, we can look at other examples of Gege's art being inconsistent in regards to colour in other artwork outside of Yuji's hair colour. For example, if we look at the final double spread done for the main series, there are plenty of colour inconsistencies we can see here. Why does Mei's white hair have the same colour tone as Gojo's, whilst at the same time Inumaki, who has similarly white or greyish hair, why is he ginger here, in a tone that matches both Yuji and Hikari? Hikari himself is also a point of contention when it comes to the fanbase as well, some people thinking he has pinkish purplish hair due to the volume 18 cover, whilst Gege has drawn him in double spreads with blonde hair. I mean, this entire double spread on its own is just ridiculous all over the place with its colour tones. Why is Shoko's white lab coat not the same tones as Chozo's white shirt, Nanami's suit, Yuta's shirt, Utahime's clothes, Panda's fur? For some reason as well, Gege has given a good chunk of the cast bright green eyes here for some reason as well, which is strange. On top of that, Nanami's lenses on his glasses aren't green or see-through here. They're gold here. Like, they're a similar tone to his tie, which doesn't make sense. Even if you make the argument that this shot is supposed to have some sort of lighting stylistic choice, his tie shouldn't match the same tone as his glasses. As we see both in the anime and the manga variations, his tie and his glasses are very different colour tones. So overall, this double spread helps push the idea that Gege struggles significantly with colour tones sometimes. Piece of evidence number 2. Blue equals green. This is kind of an extension of piece number 1 and builds upon the fact that Gege is in fact colorblind. Akutami has colored previously blue things green at other points. Okay, so let me explain. The most prolific example we see is in the colored page or double spread from the fight between Yuta in Gojo's body when he was fighting Sukuna. Gege had made a color spread of these two characters back to back, in which Gege colored the 6 eyes green, despite them being coloured consistently blue in manga material. I mean, when you think of the 6 eyes, they are blue. However, in this infamous double spread, Gege made the mistake of colouring said 6 eyes green instead of blue, which is very important, as it yet again highlights Gege's inability to sometimes not be able to perceive the colour differences between blues and greens. You see where I'm going with this now? Some people may argue that this is because, you know, the character here is not Gojo, but is actually in fact Yuta inside of Gojo's body. But if that's the case, then why didn't he draw Yuta/Gojo here with pink eyes to match Yuta's cursed energy? Or if Gege wanted to show the combination of Yuta and Gojo, he could have drawn his eyes as a light purple, as when you combine the blue of Gojo's 6 eyes and the pink of Yuta's cursed energy, you'd get a light purple. However, he clearly does neither, and then in turn, it makes this colouring seem like some sort of error on Gege's part. As we know for a fact that Yuta is making use of the 6 eyes here, it is quite literally stated as such, and it's the entire reason that Yuta is able to use the Limitless in his scuffle against Sukuna. Without the 6 eyes, he wouldn't be able to use the Limitless, so Yuta is making use of the 6 eyes here. So Gege made the 6 eyes, which have been drawn as blue in every other piece of Gojo material, anime, manga, games, gacha games. They've been blue every other time, except for here. They're green. From this example, when Gege is colouring the manga with no real narrative point or story reason as to why the 6 eyes are green in the narrative, it stands to reason that this is a minor but important error, showing to us, the readers, that for Gege, greens can be blue to him. Piece of evidence number 3, the Sukuna skull. This next piece of evidence, I will not lie, is much more contentious than the rest. But come on fellas, we all know it's true. So if we take a look at the Sukuna coloured page from all the way back in the detention facility, we see this image of Sukuna holding a skull with green glowing eyes. This specific skull has been the topic of debate for a very long time. Whose skull is this? Obviously, if we take a look at the text surrounding Sukuna in this coloured page, the only character the words could possibly be describing, in my opinion, are obviously Gojo. The skull lights up with bloodlust in the eternal darkness. Which character could Sukuna possibly be feeling bloodlust for besides the one person he swore to kill? And on top of that, imagine for a second this skull and this text alongside it. However, the glowing eyes are blue instead of green. It's very much a dead ringer for Gojo. I mean, who else's eyes glow like this, or at all, besides Gojo, in the entire Jujutsu Kaisen verse? There really isn't one. If you can give me another character whose eyes glow in JJK that Sukuna has any relation to, you could discount this piece of evidence. But as of right now, this is clearly supposed to be Gojo, and as the eyes should be blue and are painted green here, it stands to reason that Gege made another green-blue tone error. Piece of evidence number 4. Colour theory. The simplicity of this fact just kind of helps prove this argument without a shadow of a doubt. So, the JJK fandom is constantly ridiculed for its lack of reading comprehension, and I feel like it shows most in their lack of knowledge with the simplest aspects of colour theory. Not even colour theory, just colours you learn in nursery or kindergarten. For those who don't know, red plus blue doesn't create purple. It makes yellow. We all know this. However, clearly, red plus green actually makes purple. I feel like I don't need any more evidence than this, to be honest. It's kind of crazy how stupid a lot of the JJK fandom is, except those who agree with this video. If you agree with this video, you are clearly a genius. This piece of evidence very much highlights Gege's error, and how Gojo's green should actually be known as such, and be seen as green. Because if it was truly meant to be blue, hollow purple wouldn't be purple. It would be imaginary technique hollow yellow, which doesn't really fit, in my opinion. But if blue was actually green, it would be purple, which is what we actually see in the series. Overall, I feel like that I can quite soundly conclude that Gege's colour blindness led to a minor error that has spiraled out of control, and it has resulted in something as simple as one of the names of Gojo's abilities being mistitled and in turn miscoloured, animated incorrectly, and overall just being wrong. I feel like I've proven here that this move should be known as green. Let me know how much you agree with me down below. Yes, I'm gonna cut this shit now. This video is obviously just a fucking shitpost, right? I'm just gonna see how many comments I can get telling me that I'm wrong down below before they realise that it's a shitpost. I feel like a lot of people won't realise. I was wondering whether or not to put a little section at the end to say that it was all clearly a joke, right? Most of this evidence is complete bullshit. Like the only thing that's actually real on this is maybe like the colour tones in the final page and Gege admitting that he's colourblind, but that's about it. But yeah, I want to see how many comments I get telling me that I'm wrong and didn't watch the full video. This video is a shit. It's a joke. It's a gag. It's a goof. But yeah, with that being said, let me know if you enjoyed. Cheers, my doodles. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace.